Dan Marino. The name alone still echoes through NFL history as the prototype of the pure passer. Drafted by the Miami Dolphins in 1983, Marino wasted no time rewriting the quarterback position. In just his second season in 1984, he threw for an unheard-of 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns, earning league MVP honors. To put it in perspective, while most quarterbacks struggled to crack 20 touchdowns in that era, Marino was lighting up defenses with an arm that looked like it belonged in the future. He was a 9-time Pro Bowler, a 3-time first-team All-Pro, and when he finally walked away from the game in 1999, Marino held the record for the most career passing yards, over 61,000. That number made him the all-time king of the air, setting a standard that quarterbacks would chase for decades. Opponents feared his release, coaches marveled at his anticipation, and teammates knew if Marino had the ball, they were never truly out of the fight. But here's the catch. The greatness of Dan Marino has always been followed by one haunting shadow. He never won a Super Bowl. Marino reached the big stage early, leading the Dolphins to Super Bowl 19 against Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers. Fans thought it was the beginning of an era, the dawn of a dynasty. Instead, it was the closest he would ever come. Despite playoff runs, despite heroic comebacks, the Lombardi Trophy always slipped away. And that's what makes Marino's legacy so gripping. He didn't need jewelry to prove he was special. His greatness was measured in the way he transformed the quarterback position, inspiring generations from Peyton Manning to Patrick Mahomes. Marino's story leaves us with a question that keeps football debates alive. Can you truly be the greatest without the ring? Barry Sanders. He was a blur in space, a back who could stop, start, and vanish before defenders even blinked. Barry Sanders didn't just run the football, he redefined it. In 10 electrifying seasons with the Detroit Lions, he racked up 15,269 rushing yards, averaged 99.8 yards per game, the best mark among all 10,000-yard rushers, and was selected to the Pro Bowl every single year he played. In 1997, Sanders rushed for 2,053 yards, earned league MVP honors, and reminded the world what greatness really looked like. But here's the twist. For all the magic, Barry Sanders never won a Super Bowl ring. The Lions struggled to surround him with a championship roster. While Sanders delivered highlight after highlight, Detroit never provided the defense, the passing game, or the playoff power to carry his brilliance to the ultimate prize. For fans, it was heartbreak, watching the league's most electrifying runner carry everything but the Lombardi Trophy. And then, just as suddenly as he arrived, Sanders was gone. In 1999, at the peak of his career, he walked away from the game. No farewell tour, no last chase for a title. He left on his own terms, cementing his legacy as a legend who didn't need a ring to prove his worth. To this day, Barry Sanders stands as perhaps the greatest player in NFL history to never taste Super Bowl glory. A man who ran past defenders, records, and ultimately straight into history. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot more interesting videos on the channel. I would greatly appreciate it if you could show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you very much. Randy Moss was the definition of a deep threat, a receiver who could flip the game with a single stride. Drafted in 1998, he exploded onto the NFL scene with the Minnesota Vikings, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year and instantly rewriting what defenses feared. Over his career, Moss earned 6 Pro Bowl selections and 4 first-team All-Pro honors. His highlight came in 2007 with the New England Patriots, when he shattered the NFL's single-season record with 23 touchdown receptions, a mark that still stands today. But even greatness meets heartbreak. Moss finally reached Super Bowl 42 with the Patriots, a team chasing perfection after a 16-0 regular season. Late in the fourth quarter, Moss caught a 6-yard touchdown from Tom Brady to give New England a 14-10 lead with just 2 minutes and 42 seconds left. It looked like destiny was his, but then came Eli Manning's escape and David Tyree's improbable helmet catch, setting up the Giants' upset victory. The Patriots fell 17-14, and Moss's chance at a ring slipped away in one of the most unforgettable games in NFL history. Still, Randy Moss's legacy doesn't need jewelry to shine. His speed, his dominance, his ability to command double coverage every snap. Those are his rings. Fans remember the fear in cornerbacks' eyes, the inevitability when the ball went deep. He retired as one of the greatest receivers ever, a Hall of Famer whose brilliance transcends the scoreboard. Bruce Smith. He is the NFL's all-time sack leader with a jaw-dropping 200 career sacks. Drafted first overall by the Buffalo Bills in 1985, Smith dominated the defensive line for nearly 2 decades, terrorizing quarterbacks with unmatched speed and strength. His consistency and relentlessness made him one of the most feared defenders in football history. From 1990 to 1993, Smith and the Buffalo Bills made an unprecedented run, reaching 4 straight Super Bowls. In Super Bowl 25, Smith even recorded a safety that put the Bills ahead early. But despite his heroics, the Bills fell to the Giants 20-19. The heartbreak didn't stop there. Washington and Dallas would deny Buffalo in the next 3 title games, leaving Smith and his teammates with 4 consecutive crushing losses. For all his dominance, the ultimate prize, the Lombardi Trophy, remained out of reach. Smith's greatness, however, goes far beyond the ring. In 1990, he was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year after racking up 19 sacks. Across his career, he became an 11-time Pro Bowler and earned first-team All-Pro honors 8 times. In 2009, his name was immortalized in Canton as a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and the Bills retired his number 78 to honor his legacy. Bruce Smith may never have worn a Super Bowl ring, but he left the game as the ultimate pass-rushing icon, relentless, unstoppable, and unforgettable. Jim Kelly's career was built on brilliance and defined by heartbreak. From 1990 to 1993, he commanded the Buffalo Bills' no-huddle K-gun offense, an innovation that kept defenses on their heels and powered Buffalo to 4 consecutive Super Bowl appearances, a feat no other quarterback has matched. But in each of those championship games, the dream dissolved into defeat, leaving Kelly forever remembered as one of the greatest to play without ever hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. The heartbreak began in Super Bowl 25, where Buffalo fell 20-19 to the New York Giants after Scott Norwood's infamous missed field goal. The following year, Washington dismantled the Bills in Super Bowl 26. Then came back-to-back losses against the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowls 27 and 28. Despite the pain, Kelly's production never wavered. Over his career, he amassed more than 35,000 passing yards, earned 5 Pro Bowl selections, and in 1991 was named a first-team All-Pro. His leadership and aggressive play style made Buffalo one of the NFL's most feared teams, even without a championship to show for it. Kelly's legacy stretches beyond wins and losses. Immortalized in ESPN's documentary, 4 Falls of Buffalo, his story is as much about resilience as it is about defeat. Off the field, he fought personal battles, including a highly publicized fight against cancer, showing the same toughness that defined his playing days. Inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2002, Jim Kelly remains a symbol of perseverance, a legend whose greatness endures even without the ring that so often defines a champion. 4 straight Super Bowls, 4 bitter losses, yet one indomitable legend. Was Jim Kelly the greatest quarterback never to wear a champion's crown? Eric Dickerson. He wasn't just a running back, he was a phenomenon. With his tall frame, upright stride, and signature goggles, he brought a style and power the NFL had never seen. Drafted 2nd overall in 1983, Dickerson immediately exploded onto the scene, rushing for 1,808 yards and 18 touchdowns in his rookie year, setting records that still stand today. He was named Offensive Rookie of the Year and instantly established himself as the league's premier back. But it was in 1984 that Dickerson etched his name permanently into football history. In just his 2nd season, he rushed for a staggering 2,105 yards, a single-season record that still stands 4 decades later, despite the NFL expanding to 17 games. That year, he had 11 games with more than 100 yards, proving that his dominance wasn't a fluke, but a relentless march every Sunday. Yet despite all of his personal brilliance, the Lombardi Trophy always remained out of reach. Dickerson led the Rams to the playoffs, but in 1985, his run came to a brutal end against the legendary Chicago Bears defense, one of the greatest units of all time. Though he carried the Colts and later other teams, a Super Bowl ring never came. By the time he retired in 1993, Dickerson had rushed for 13,259 yards, making him the 2nd all-time leading rusher at the time, and he had become the fastest player in NFL history to reach 10,000 rushing yards, doing so in just 91 games. Eric Dickerson's career was a mix of unstoppable force and unfinished business. He remains a Hall of Famer, a record holder, and one of the most electrifying runners to ever touch the field. LaDainian Tomlinson wasn't just a running back. He was a touchdown machine who redefined offensive dominance in the 2000s. In 2006, he delivered one of the greatest seasons in NFL history, rushing for 1,815 yards and setting single-season records with 28 rushing touchdowns and 31 total touchdowns. That year, he was named League MVP and Offensive Player of the Year, leading the San Diego Chargers to a 14-2 record and the top seed in the AFC. For fans, it seemed like destiny was pointing him toward a Super Bowl run. But in a shocking divisional playoff game, the Chargers fell to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, and Tomlinson's legendary season ended without the championship it deserved. Throughout his career, Tomlinson built a resume that places him among the NFL's all-time greats. By the time he retired, he ranked 5th in career rushing yards with 13,684 and 2nd in rushing touchdowns with 145. Add nearly 5,000 receiving yards and 17 more scores through the air, and he totaled 162 career touchdowns, a mark that solidified him as one of the most lethal all-purpose weapons the league has ever seen. His versatility, vision, and scoring ability made him nearly unstoppable on the field, yet the one accolade that escaped him was the Super Bowl ring. What makes Tomlinson's story so compelling is that it embodies both dominance and heartbreak. He did everything a player could do. He carried teams, broke records, and left defenses in shambles. But the ultimate prize always slipped away. Reflecting on his career, Tomlinson himself said he was at peace with never winning a Super Bowl, proud of the memories and accomplishments he created along the way. His legacy remains untouchable, not because of the rings he didn't win, but because of the greatness he displayed every time he touched the football. Tony Gonzalez. He wasn't just a tight end, he was the tight end. Over 17 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs and Atlanta Falcons, Tony Gonzalez built a resume that looked almost impossible to match. By the time he retired, he held the records for the most receptions, most receiving yards, and the second most touchdowns ever by a tight end. His numbers, 1,325 catches, 15,127 yards, and 111 touchdowns, weren't just great for his position. They were legendary by any standard. He was selected to 14 Pro Bowls, more than any other tight end in history, and missed only 2 games out of 272 in his entire career. Durability, dominance, and consistency defined him. And yet, for all of that greatness, Gonzalez's career was haunted by the one thing he never touched: the Lombardi Trophy. For 15 years, he carried the weight of playoff heartbreak, losing 6 straight postseason games before finally tasting his first and only playoff victory in January of 2013 with the Falcons. That win gave him hope, but fate was cruel. Just a week later, Atlanta fell in the NFC Championship, and Gonzalez's dream of reaching the Super Bowl disappeared in a single loss. He walked away from the game with 270 games played, one of the few men in NFL history to cross that mark without ever appearing in a Super Bowl. Still, Tony Gonzalez's impact goes beyond the ring. He transformed what it meant to be a tight end, becoming the blueprint for the modern era of stars like Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski. He was the first tight end ever named to the NFL 100 all-time team, cementing his place among the greatest to ever play the game. Anthony Muñoz is often hailed as the greatest offensive tackle in NFL history, a dominant force who redefined the position with his rare blend of power, agility, and flawless technique. Drafted 3rd overall by the Cincinnati Bengals in 1980, he quickly became the anchor of their offensive line. Over his 13-year career, Muñoz was selected to 11 consecutive Pro Bowls from 1981 to 1991 and earned 9 first-team All-Pro honors, along with 2 second-team nods. Year after year, he stood as the gold standard for excellence in the trenches, a player every defensive lineman dreaded facing. Despite his unmatched personal accolades, team glory always slipped through his fingers. Muñoz helped lead the Bengals to 2 Super Bowl appearances, but both ended in heartbreaking losses to the San Francisco 49ers. In Super Bowl 16, Cincinnati fell 26-21, despite a strong second-half push that made the game closer than expected. 7 years later, in Super Bowl 23, the Bengals held a late 16-13 lead, but Joe Montana orchestrated one of the most famous drives in NFL history, 92 yards capped with a touchdown to John Taylor, that sealed another crushing defeat. Twice, Muñoz came within minutes of immortality, only to watch victory slip away. Yet, even without a ring, Muñoz's legacy remains untouchable. Inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1998, his first year of eligibility, he is universally regarded as one of the greatest linemen to ever play. Alan Page was more than just a defensive tackle. He was the heartbeat of the Minnesota Vikings' feared Purple People Eaters. Alongside Carl Eller, Jim Marshall, and Gary Larson, Page anchored one of the most dominant defensive lines in NFL history. Relentless, quick, and intelligent, he redefined what it meant to play defense in an era ruled by offensive stars. In 1971, Page made history when he became the first defensive player ever to win the NFL's Most Valuable Player award. That season, he started all 14 games, piling up 109 tackles, 9 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries, and even scoring 2 safeties. Under his leadership, the Vikings' defense allowed the fewest points in the league for the 3rd straight year. His MVP win wasn't just rare, it was groundbreaking, proving that defense could command the same respect as quarterbacks and running backs. Despite his dominance, Page never captured the ultimate prize. The Vikings reached the Super Bowl 4 times during his career, Super Bowls 4, 8, 9, and 11, but came up short in each. Time and again, Page and the defense stood tall, only to watch the offense falter when it mattered most. Those near misses still haunt the Vikings' legacy and left Page one of the greatest to ever play without a championship ring. Fran Tarkenton. He was called the Scrambler, a quarterback who turned broken plays into highlight reels. Fran Tarkenton wasn't just another passer. He was a pioneer, redefining the position with his legs as much as his arm. By the time he retired, Tarkenton owned the NFL record books, holding career marks for completions, yards, and touchdowns. In 1975, he stood atop the league as its most valuable player and offensive player of the year, the undisputed engine of the Minnesota Vikings. Yet, for all the glory, one prize forever slipped from his grasp: the Lombardi Trophy. Tarkenton led the Vikings into battle on the biggest stage 3 times, Super Bowl 8, 9, and 11. And 3 times he walked away without the crown. The sting was unforgettable, but his numbers were undeniable. More than 47,000 passing yards, 342 touchdown passes, and a career built on breathtaking improvisation. He left the game as the NFL's all-time leader in nearly every passing category, a record setter whose ring finger remained bare. Junior Seau. He was the heartbeat of every defense he touched. Across an incredible 20 NFL seasons, he became a tone setter with the San Diego Chargers, Miami Dolphins, and New England Patriots. His resume speaks volumes: 12 Pro Bowl selections, 8 first-team All-Pro honors, and a reputation as one of the most relentless defenders the game has ever seen. Seau helped lead the Chargers to Super Bowl 29, the franchise's first and only appearance, and later chased glory with the Patriots in 2 more Super Bowls. Yet, despite coming so close, the Lombardi Trophy always slipped away. But for Seau, greatness wasn't defined by the ring. His thunderous hits, his sideline-to-sideline energy, and his leadership etched his name into football history far deeper than any ring could. Even without that ultimate prize, Seau's legacy remains untouchable. He was the player who carried teams on his back, the warrior who refused to quit, and the legend whose spirit still echoes on every field. Deacon Jones was the defensive end who changed football forever. As the anchor of the Rams' fearsome foursome, Jones terrorized quarterbacks in the 1960s with a ferocity the league had never seen. He popularized the term sack, describing it as if he were devastating a city. And though the NFL didn't officially count sacks until 1982, historians credit him with a staggering 173.5. That total would rank among the very best in history, proving just how far ahead of his time he truly was. Nicknamed the Secretary of Defense, Jones was the definition of dominance. He earned 8 Pro Bowl selections, 5 first-team All-Pro honors, and was named Defensive Player of the Year in 1967 and 1968. His relentless pursuit and signature head slap made him a nightmare for linemen and quarterbacks alike. And in 1980, his impact was immortalized with his induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame on the very first ballot. But for all his greatness, there was one thing Deacon Jones never achieved: a Super Bowl ring. Despite revolutionizing the pass rush and becoming one of the most feared defenders in history, he never even played in a league championship game. It's a cruel irony. One of the NFL's greatest legends, whose name is forever tied to sacks, never got the chance to sack his way to a title. Dick Butkus was the very definition of ferocity on a football field. Drafted 3rd overall by the Chicago Bears in 1965, he became the heart of the franchise's defense, earning 8 consecutive Pro Bowl selections and 5 first-team All-Pro honors. He was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year in both 1969 and 1970. Yet despite all of his dominance, he never once reached a playoff game, let alone competed for a Super Bowl ring. The monster of the Midway struck fear into opponents every Sunday, but team success never matched his personal greatness. Butkus built his legend through sheer intimidation and production. Known for hits that shook the stadium, he admitted to manufacturing rage just to fuel his fire, once saying he would imagine opponents were laughing at him or the Bears before unleashing punishment. In just 9 seasons, cut short by a devastating knee injury at age 31, he piled up 22 interceptions and a then NFL record 27 fumble recoveries. Though he left the game without a title, his legacy was cemented with induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1979 and through the Butkus Award, which still honors the fiercest linebackers in football today. Warren Moon's story is one of brilliance, barriers, and heartbreak. Over 23 NFL seasons, he carved his name into history with nearly 49,325 passing yards and 9 Pro Bowl selections. Known for his precise deep ball and fearless command of the offense, Moon lit up the league for the Houston Oilers, Minnesota Vikings, Seattle Seahawks, and Kansas City Chiefs. Yet despite those staggering numbers, one thing always escaped him: the Lombardi Trophy. Moon's greatness wasn't just measured in stats. He was the first African-American quarterback inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, a pioneer who fought stereotypes and earned respect in a league hesitant to embrace quarterbacks who looked like him. Twice, he led the NFL in passing yards, in 1990 and 1991, proving he wasn't just good, he was elite. But when it came to the postseason, the victories were scarce. With a career playoff record of 3-6, he never even reached a conference championship game. And that's the paradox of Warren Moon. He dominated regular seasons, redefined the quarterback position, and broke through racial barriers. Yet, when the confetti fell, he was never the one holding the ring. Larry Fitzgerald. His career was built on craft, toughness, and longevity. From 2004 to 2020, he spent all 17 seasons with the Arizona Cardinals, becoming the face of the franchise. With 1,432 receptions and 17,492 receiving yards, he retired ranked second all-time in both categories, trailing only Jerry Rice. 11 Pro Bowl selections and year after year of consistency made him one of the most reliable targets the game has ever seen. Through team struggles, quarterback changes, and injuries, Fitzgerald stood as a model of loyalty and resilience, embodying the heart of Arizona football. His greatest chance at glory came in Super Bowl 43, when he caught 2 touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers, including a dramatic 64-yard score that briefly gave Arizona the lead. But with seconds left, Ben Roethlisberger found Santonio Holmes in the corner of the end zone, sealing a 27-23 Cardinals defeat. The ring slipped away, but Fitzgerald's performance cemented his place as one of the greatest receivers in history. Calvin Johnson, known as Megatron, was a force of nature on the football field, a wide receiver who made the impossible look routine. In 2012, he etched his name into the NFL record books with 1,964 receiving yards in a single season, surpassing Jerry Rice's legendary mark of 1,848 set in 1995. No defender could contain him. And even years later, only Cooper Kupp has come close, finishing just shy at 1,947 yards in 2021. Week after week, Johnson's performances left fans in awe and opponents demoralized. His speed, size, and sheer dominance made him a nightmare matchup, a player whose highlights felt more like myth than reality. Yet for all his brilliance, there was one prize that always eluded him: the Super Bowl. Despite his greatness, Johnson never won a ring, and his years with the Detroit Lions left him feeling, in his own words, stuck, with no real chance at chasing a championship. In 2016, at just 30 years old, Calvin Johnson shocked the football world when he walked away from the game. He retired at the height of his powers, carrying records, Pro Bowls, and the respect of an entire league, but not the hardware that so often defines legacies. J.J. Watt. He was a force of nature who left entire offenses in ruins. From the moment he joined the Houston Texans in 2011, Watt established himself as one of the most dominant players the NFL had ever seen. Between 2012 and 2015, he piled up an astonishing 69 sacks in just 4 seasons, becoming one of only 3 players in history to win Defensive Player of the Year 3 times, alongside Lawrence Taylor and Aaron Donald. Watt was more than a pass rusher. He was a game changer, capable of swatting down passes, scoring touchdowns on offense, and even delivering a pick-6 in the 2011 playoffs, one of the most iconic moments in Texans history. His relentless energy and unmatched versatility turned him into a future Hall of Famer before his career was even done. Yet, for all his individual brilliance, the one thing J.J. Watt never earned was a Super Bowl ring. During his decade with Houston, the Texans made the playoffs but never reached the big stage. Later, in the twilight of his career, Watt signed with the Arizona Cardinals in hopes of finally capturing that elusive Lombardi trophy, but injuries and team struggles kept the dream out of reach. His career closed without a championship, leaving fans to marvel at a paradox. One of the greatest defenders of all time, who could do everything on the field, walked away without football's ultimate prize. Cris Carter built a career on precision, reliability, and dominance. Across 16 seasons with the Eagles, Vikings, and briefly the Dolphins, he became one of the most prolific receivers the game has ever seen, finishing with 1,101 catches, 13,899 receiving yards, and 130 touchdowns, an 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, and a lock on the NFL's 1990s All-Decade team. Carter was more than just numbers. He was the definition of consistency, leading the league in receiving touchdowns 3 times. His hands were legendary, his roots surgical, and his ability to deliver in the red zone unmatched. But for all his brilliance, Carter never played on football's grandest stage. Not once did he appear in a Super Bowl, a cruel omission in a Hall of Fame resume. The closest he came was in 1998, when Minnesota's high-powered offense, fueled by Carter and rookie sensation Randy Moss, stormed to a 15-1 record. Yet, in the NFC Championship game, a missed field goal and an overtime loss to the Falcons shattered their path to glory. Carter would retire as a Viking legend, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2013, but forever remembered as one of the greatest to never hoist the Lombardi trophy. Adrian Peterson was a running back built for legends, combining brute force with track-level speed. Drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in 2007, he burst onto the scene immediately, rushing for over 1,300 yards as a rookie and setting the single-game record with 296 yards against the Chargers. His finest hour came in 2012, when he returned from a torn ACL and MCL to rush for 2,097 yards, just 9 yards shy of breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season record. That year, he carried the Vikings into the playoffs and earned the league's Most Valuable Player award, cementing his reputation as one of the most dominant backs in NFL history. But even greatness couldn't guarantee glory. In the 2009 NFC Championship game, Peterson scored 3 touchdowns but fumbled twice, with one recovery by the Saints, in a heartbreaking overtime loss that kept Minnesota out of the Super Bowl. Despite amassing 14,918 career rushing yards, ranking 5th all-time when he retired, Peterson never once stepped onto football's biggest stage. His later years saw him in short stints with Washington, Arizona, New Orleans, and Detroit, chasing the elusive ring that never came. Did I miss any names? Please mention them in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, I will be posting more interesting videos on the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Thank you very much.